Folks, what are the most imbalanced fighting games of all time? That is the question that I would like to answer today. I saw a pretty interesting Reddit thread where people were debating and discussing which fighting games are most imbalanced, so I thought I would give my thoughts because I feel like there are certain misconceptions about the balance of certain games, so I thought I would do my best to clarify and discuss what I thought are maybe the most broken. But I am going to kind of limit myself to games that are actually competitively played, like on a major scale. You know, there's a million Kusoge out there that are super imbalanced, like Sailor Moon or Power Rangers or whatever, but I'm going to be doing games that have actually been played at big tournaments like EVO and actually see play, because that'll just make the list a little bit more challenging to put together instead of just picking out some random games that are really broken. But if you guys would like to see a most balanced Kusoge video, let me know in the comments and I can do that as well. But let's talk about first some games that aren't going to be on the list. Okay, so one game I'm not including is Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. So this game is definitely imbalanced, don't get me wrong. Characters like Zero, Morrigan, Virgil, Phoenix are extremely busted and really have a lot of advantages that the low tier characters don't have. But this game is so broken that kind of every character is viable because every character can essentially touch of death you. Every character has access to X Factor, which is like an insane comeback mechanic that you can kill a whole team with. So we have seen low tier teams pretty successful in this game. Obviously, Kane Blue River has won EVO with Hulk, Hagar Sentinel, who are definitely not the best characters. And then we have people like Magic Pixel Mexican playing Hagar Arthur Nemesis, which is a really jank team, and he made top 6 at EVO. So yeah, because every character is so broken, you know, every character I think is viable to a degree, even though this is an unbalanced game, but it's not making my top list here. I'm also not including Third Strike. This is another game that people bring up when they talk about imbalanced games. I actually don't have any Street Fighter games on my list. So Third Strike, I feel like, yes, it is very imbalanced. Yun and Chun are so insanely good, along with characters like Ken and Makoto and stuff, but I do think that we've seen enough success from people with the more mid-tier and low-tier characters that I'm not ready to put it on my list. You know, every character has access to parry, which is a very powerful mechanic, and there are lots of little tricks and stuff that you can do that we've seen people make characters like Hugo, even like Remy has done well in certain tournaments, especially in Japan. Like, low tier characters can succeed in this game even though they have a major uphill battle. The same thing with Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, kind of similar to Marvel 3. You know, at the end of the day, any character in this game can basically kill you. Even, you know, low tiers like Zangief and E Honda have some good matchups as well. This game is very kind of rock, paper, scissors, where some matchups are really good for some characters and really bad for other characters. So we've definitely seen lower characters succeed. They just have some really hard matchups, so you kind of have to have the right tool for the job in this game. Okay, but now we're on to the real list here, the games I feel are the most imbalanced, and I have to include Marvel vs. Capcom 2, right? Unlike Marvel 3, not every character can just kill you in this game. In fact, a lot of characters in this game have a very hard time killing you compared to the top tiers. You know, we basically see the same 6 or 7 characters almost exclusively in high-level play. Storm, Sentinel, Magneto, Cable, and then we see, you know, the assist characters like Cyclops, Captain Commando, Psylocke as well. These are basically the only characters you see at the highest level, up in the top 6s, top 8s, top 4s of tournaments. And I know to a degree the bad balance in this game is partially due to the developers just not knowing. You know, we didn't really know about the ultra high level techniques. We didn't know about all the glitches like DHC resetting damage scaling or all the infinites and stuff. So part of it they just didn't know. But also, the developers just did not seem scared to give characters different degrees of tools, right? You know, Storm, she can air dash in 8 directions. She can hold up to float. She can fly. She has all these different you know, tools. You compare it to a character like Ryu, he can't really do any of that. No air dash, no double jump, nothing. You know, all he can do is really super jump and ground dash. So Ryu is at a major disadvantage. He can't even really hit confirm into his launcher. This is how trash Ryu is. And like, this is like his single best combo that he's able to do without assists. Or maybe something like this, you know, just very, very little damage compared to the top tiers who can infinite you and all that stuff. And the other thing about balance in this game, I feel we don't really do this anymore. They actually included joke characters who are true jokes, truly terrible, like Roll and Servbot and Dan. These characters can do almost nothing compared to the top tiers because they're intended to just be kind of fun little things that you have to unlock and then you can play with your friends. They did not intend for these characters to be balanced in any way, so I think that's a big reason why this game is so imbalanced as well. But yeah, Marvel 2 I think will always be legendary for having some of the most broken top tiers we've ever seen in fighting games, and unlike Marvel 3, even the low tiers do not have like the major damage and killing potential that they need to be viable. The next game I want to talk about, and this game does not come up that often on my channel just because I'm not very knowledgeable about it, but it's Super Smash Bros. Melee. Smash Melee definitely has got to be one of the most imbalanced games of all time. You know, similar to Marvel 2, it's an old game. They actually came out around the same time. And there were just a lot of glitches and stuff that weren't known by the developers, so of course they couldn't anticipate this. But similar to Marvel vs. Capcom 2 as well, there are just certain things that certain characters don't have access to that are necessary to be top tier. Like Mr. Game & Watch, for example, he essentially can't do L canceling, at least on a lot of his moves, which is a technique that is pretty essential to being good at Melee and actually playing the game, and this character just doesn't really have access to it, which is a major disadvantage. And then we look at characters like Roy, who has very, very poor ability to recover to the stage. We compare that to a character like Jigglypuff, who can like recover from anything, it feels like. Roy also has very poor kill potential. We compare it to like the space animals and stuff who can combo you and kill you super easily off a lot of different hits. So yeah, the imbalance is massive in this game. That's not to say that the low tier characters can't do well, and obviously we've seen low tier characters move up the tier list. I know Yoshi has become considered a much, much better character than he was 10 or so years ago, and even like Donkey Kong now, people are starting to kind of talk about as an underrated character who's getting better. But overall, I think this is similar to Marvel 2, where just the era of the game coming out and our level of knowledge about, you know, how fighting games were designed and balanced was not where it needed to be, along with all the glitches that we can't patch out because the game is old, really separated the top tiers from the bottom tiers in Smash Melee. Next up, I want to talk about, you know, kind of a pet game of mine here, which is King of Fighters 13. King of Fighters 13, I think, is beloved by a lot of people. Like myself, for instance, this was the first King of Fighters that I ever played. I think because it came out around that like 2009 post-Street Fighter 4 era, where a lot of people were getting into fighting games competitively for the first time. I think that really worked to its advantage, as long as obviously, as well as the beautiful graphics that still people talk about to this day, how beautiful KOF 13 is. So it had a lot of things going for it in that sense, but the balance compared to a lot of the more currently played King of Fighters games like 15 and 2002, the balance is maybe a little bit iffy. So here, this is EVO 2014, and I found really interesting here, in the top 3 of EVO 2014, all 3 people in top 3 played Iori and Mr. Karate. So 2/3 of their teams were the same for all of the top 3. There were a lot of other characters that were really commonly seen, like Kim. Kyo was really popular as well. There were just this small group of characters. Oh, Takuma as well, who obviously plays pretty similar to Mr. Karate, but there were certain characters that were just really overtuned, really had the ability to maximize setting up HD mode combos and dealing 100%, which was a big part of this game. They also had ridiculous neutral tools. Like Duolon had really ridiculous and busted neutrals. So yeah, certain characters were just a level above and could abuse the kind of busted nature of KOF 13 better than others. Like, check out this classic match. We got Mr. Karate versus Takuma, and watch how much HP Mr. Karate has. And then he gets hit by the EX command grab. I fear it's over for you, Tokido. So yeah, this game, amazingly fun, amazingly beautiful, but definitely very broken, and maybe a little bit of the power creep from the DLC characters as well. But at the end of the day, I still love KOF 13, despite it being really broken. I guess that's true for a lot of games on this list. Like, obviously, Marvel 2, one of my favorites. Sometimes imbalance can be a little bit fun as well. But for the final game on the list, what I would consider to be one of, if not the most imbalanced games that was played seriously in tournaments for many years, is Injustice 1. Injustice 1 was crazy, you guys. So here we're looking at, this was the first year of Injustice 1 at EVO, and a lot of people remember this as being like the Superman tournament. So many people played Superman because he was so overtuned when the game was new, and Superman ended up winning this tournament, of course, but we were very fatigued of seeing this character, let's just say. But what I find so interesting about Injustice 1, you know, it released really, really imbalanced. And then they released DLC and patches, and, you know, they would nerf certain characters and buff certain characters, but the game was basically always some degree of broken. It had some kind of problem character. So at the start, it was definitely Superman. And, you know, they did their best to nerf Superman, but pretty quickly, you know, they added Batgirl as DLC, who kind of became one of the new problem characters. Batgirl's rushdown and her neutral skips and stuff were just insane, and mix-ups as well. So, yeah, Batgirl was a really insane time in this game as well. And then there was also Scorpion, who was one of the most broken characters ever when he was first added as DLC. There was the famous CEO 2013 tournament where people were booing people for picking Scorpion because he was so overplayed, because he was so ridiculous. But then they nerfed Scorpion so hard that now he's considered like the worst character in the game. So they just had a really hard time finding a good balance and Injustice. It was a really funny game with a lot of really ridiculous mechanics, like the interactables and the clashes and stuff. So I definitely have fond memories of Injustice, but it was really funny just how imbalanced and how broken a lot of the characters were in this game. But that's going to be the last one for my list. Let me know what you guys think. Were there any big games that I failed to mention on here in terms of games that were actually played in tournament? Or if there are any kusoge that you think need mentioning, any really bad games or little-known obscure games that are famously really imbalanced as well, let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe. It really, really helps me out. It seriously makes a huge difference. And just double check if you're subscribed, because sometimes YouTube randomly unsubscribes people. I don't know why, but that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.